Hello guys, welcome back to the channel for a new Databricks video. Today we are going to continue with Databricks asset bundles. However, this time we are also going to include Azure DevOps pipelines. Many projects use GitHub Actions to deploy their data pipelines, but others use Azure DevOps pipelines. So today we are going to focus mainly on Azure DevOps pipelines in conjunction with Databricks asset bundles. So please check the previous videos regarding Databricks asset bundles, because in this example we are going to focus mainly on the structure of the project and how we can structure the project using Azure DevOps pipelines and Databricks asset bundles to deploy our jobs. I have already created a very simple project with a very simple structure that you can use it as a template if you want to play around, if you want to learn more about Databricks asset bundles or Azure DevOps pipelines, or just use it at work. In this case, we have two environments, dev and prod, so we have two Databricks environments, separate environments, and we are going to deploy our Databricks jobs, our Databricks pipelines to dev. If everything is okay, we are going to deploy everything to production automatically. So we are also going to build our own Python library using Pointry, deploy it and install it to our job clusters to use it in our Databricks notebooks in our business logic. Mainly I want you to see how a project can be structured. Apparently it's not the only way, but it's a very simple way to structure your project if you want to start something from scratch. There is a lot to unpack here. I will do my best to go step by step and explain everything. So let's get down to business. Okay guys, so let's start with the service connection. Here we are on Azure DevOps overview page. Let's click on the project settings. The first thing we have to do is establish a connection between Azure DevOps and Azure Portal and or Azure Resources. So scroll down where it says Service Connections, and here you click on the new service connection, click on Azure Resource Manager, click on Next, click on Service Principal Manual, and here select your subscription ID. So if we go to our subscriptions, you will see the subscription ID here. Let's go here. Subscription ID, copy that, paste it here. Subscription name, Azure subscription for example. Service Principal ID, so let's go to our Service Principal. That would be in our Microsoft Entra ID. So scroll down here where it says App Registrations. We have all the service principals. I have already created a few of them, so this is the one I'm using. You copy this one, Application Client ID, you paste it here, and then you paste the secret as well. And then you also have to paste the tenant, which is the directory tenant ID that you see here. You copy that, you paste it here, and if you have the key you can verify, and then you place the service connection name, you grant access permission to all pipelines, and you verify and save. I have already done that, that's why I'm not doing this, but this is the process to get a service connection. So I have this already. So it uses this svp_demo service principal. And now the next step is to go to our Azure repos. Okay, here let's start with Databricks YAML files. Remember our tutorial with about Databricks asset bundles. We have the bundle name, test_bundle. We have to include the folder with all the YAMLs. So this is the equivalent of the resources folder when we use the Databricks asset bundle template. I have renamed it to dab_templates, and here I have a YAML file, so I include this. You can also pass variables to your YAML, to your DAP template, but I have already commented that out. I just added it here in case you want to pass variables yourself. Here I define the workspace. I have the root path, which is shared /.bundle and then bundle name and bundle target. We have two targets, dev and prod. And here, this is where the artifacts, this is when we want to use poetry to build our Python wheel. And here, using sync and include, we place the Python wheel to this path here, /dist/ and a wheel. So for passing wheel packages to workspace. Then we have the pyproject.toml. And here we have the name of the Python library that we want to build, which is framework. We have version 0.0.1, description, authors, and here one of the key parts is this one, packages include from source, we include framework. Now here you can see this is the source folder, and this is what we are referring to here. This source folder here, and if I expand this, we have the framework folder, and I include the framework folder because here we have code, right? Python code. This is the code that we utilize again and again, and we want to build a Python library, so we don't have to write it again and again, just import the functions that we want and use them. And here we have the dependencies that we want to install in our Python wheel, which is Python, PySpark, Delta, Delta Spark, and PyYAML. That's what I have included for this example. Now, as you can see in this demo bundle YAML here, this is the YAML pipeline that we define the job. So we have the demo pipeline that have two tasks here. We have task key. We provide, well, first we have a scheduler. If you want to add the scheduler, we provide the name, that's fine. And then we have two tasks. So one job, two tasks. We have demo_bronze, and that points to this notebook here, demo_bronze, and which is in the workspace.rootpath/files/notebooks/bronze. And then we use this job cluster key, which is the cluster that we defined down here, which is the demo_cluster with all these things here, all this configuration, just one worker. And once this task is done, then we move to the second task, which is demo_silver, that depends on the demo bronze. Pretty simple things in both in both tasks. We include the library that we build, which will be found in this path here, workspace/workspace rootpath/files/dist, and this is the our Python wheel that we are going to deploy there, right? That we are going to build and deploy there. Now this function, this Python wheel includes these two, everything that is under framework here, under source and framework. So we have two folders. One is common functions, _functions, and I have a Python file called metadata_functions. And here I import the YAML library, the pathlib library, and the PySpark types. Here what we do, first we define a simple function here that returns the data types. And also we have a read_YAML function. We pass the, let's say, entity name that we want, the column names and the entity and the data types for these columns. And it reads all this data using safe_load, using the YAML library, of course, and .safe_load, and it points to the metadata.yaml file. And here we are using path, resolve, parent, and here we create the path that this metadata YAML file exists, which is under utils, right? So if you see framework utils metadata.yaml, framework utils metadata.yaml. And here, for example, we have defined the column names in the data types for these columns for the bronze layer and the silver layer. Pretty simple stuff. It doesn't matter here what things you have. I just wanted to show you how you can structure the code and include this library to your Databricks notebooks. You can place your logic, everything that you utilize again and again, you can place it here. So you can include it in your Python library and import this Python library to your Databricks notebooks. Here under notebooks, I have a bronze notebook here. And here, as I mentioned before, we include now from the Python library that we created, we have from framework.commonfunctions.meta_functions, we import these two functions here. We have read_YAML and get spark type mapping, and here we print all those things. We call the read YAML function and the get_spark type mapping function, which was defined here, right? So in the metadata_functions py, here we have this function, and here we have this function as well. The same for the silver layer. As you can see, we import our Python wheel again, our Python library, and then we print all the stuff. Nothing spectacular. Apparently, again, this is something I wanted to show you of how you can structure the code. There is no business meaning behind all these things right now. It's just simple code just to show you how it works and how you can structure your project. Okay, so let's move to Azure pipelines, the main part of the project. Here I have the trigger you can use to include all the branches. Now, if you go into the documentation, you can see more about branch filters. You can optionally specify the branches to include or exclude when configuring the trigger. If you want to specify branch filters, a new pipeline is triggered whenever a source pipeline run is successfully completed that matches the branch filters. In the following example, the app.ci pipeline runs if this pipeline completes on the releases branch except for releases old, and this is the code here. To trigger the child pipeline for different branches for which the parent is triggered, include all the branch filters for which the parent is triggered. Here, it's not necessary to include this code. I just added it in case you want to use it for your own needs. Now, there are two ways to define the parameters in our Azure pipeline YAML. Here we have parameters, right? And here we have name, display name, the pool type, default value. The default value, we have multiple values we can select from. The default will be Azure pipelines. We have the name prefix, which is demo test as the default. Again, this and the service connection, that the default value is here. The service_connection_dev, which is this one, the service connection that we defined here, right? Just in case that you missed that, this is what we do here. And when we create a Azure DevOps pipeline, we can just adjust these variables, these parameters, and specify different values. Now, another way to pass variables here, to pass parameters, is actually using a variable group. For example, then we have stages, right? In the stage dev, we have the display name. For pool, we are using Linux. And for variables, we are using this variable group called dev_variables. Now, how we have already defined in the libraries two variable groups. I have one for dev, one for prod. So in the dev_variables group here, I have the env underscore name, we have the dev value here, and the key vault name, which is key vault demo apple for the key vault name. The same thing for the prod variables, with the only exception that the value here is prod, right? We are using the same key vault, and typically in you have 4 subscriptions, one for dev, one for UAT, one for staging, one for prod, but apparently I'm using the same, and you have different key vaults apparently in different Databricks environments. In our example, just for the sake of this example, to make it simpler, I have only one key vault in 2 Databricks environments in the same subscription. Okay, so let's go back to our pipeline. And so we are using the variable group dev underscore variables. Here we have this condition. Now, as you can see, it points to the master branch. So that means if I edit here everything here, and commit it, it will automatically trigger the Azure pipeline. And if I want to avoid that, we need to create a separate branch, right? Because usually we have the master branch, but we don't develop stuff on our master branch. We create a new branch, and then we merge it to the master branch, and then it automatically triggers the Azure DevOps pipeline and deploys everything, right? Deploys the changes. So if we create a new branch here and edit something and commit, it's not going to deploy anything unless we merge it with the master branch. So that's why we have this condition here. And then we have jobs, we have task, we have the Azure Key Vault. Here we need, in the Azure subscription, we need to pass the service connection name, and we can get that from parameters. Those parameters are those parameters here that we have specified here, and the service connection name is this default value, service underscore connection underscore dev, which is the service connection that we created initially. And then for the key vault name, we get this from the variable group here that we just saw. So the key vault points to the key vault name that we have in our libraries, in the pipelines library here. Dev libraries here, we have the key vault name, so this is the value that we get. And let's go back. And we have, what else we have here? Secrets. We select all the secrets, run as pre-job, okay. And then we install Poetry, so all those commands is to install Poetry. We display the reason and the branch name, the build reason and the source branch name, okay, nothing special here. And then we install the dependencies that we need, for example, request, PyTest, PySpark, etc., etc. We install the dependencies, then we have to install Databricks CLI, using all those commands here. And then we have the script, and here is the script regarding Databricks asset bundles. We have Databricks bundle validate minus target the env environment. So the env environment is the parameter we are passing from the pipelines library here that we checked, and then we export it to validate.json. You can skip those echo commands here, they are not necessary. And then we have Databricks bundle deploy. First we validate the bundle, then we deploy minus t minus target the environment, which is dev in this case, because we are using the variable group dev underscore variables, right? So we are pointing to the dev environment, and then because this is where we are running also ls minus la commands to share all the files and subdirectories, etc., etc. And here we are running the bundle job here, the job. So Databricks bundle run demo pipeline -t within the dev environment. So in the dev environment, when we deploy, we just trigger the job to run to see that everything is successfully running. Now this demo_pipeline is the name of the job that we defined here in the demo_bundle YAML here, right? So demo pipeline. So if we point to this job and we run this job, and then we have Databricks host, we have Databricks and dev URL and Databricks dev token. So remember here that we connect to the Key Vault right here, and we select all the secrets. And in the Key Vault we have two secrets. One is the Databricks the URL and the Databricks token. Now let me go back to my Azure portal, open Key Vault, and here we have the secrets, right? Here in the secrets I have Databricks dev URL, which is here we have the value, which is in Databricks environment. So if you go in your Databricks environment, I have two environments, one for dev. So if you go here, you will see this is the URL, this is what I stored in the Key Vault. And the second thing is that you need the token, right, to connect to Databricks. Now if you go here, if you go into your Databricks environment under settings, you go under developer and then access token, click on manage, generate a new token, and then generate a token. Copy this value to your Key Vault, and this is going to be retrieved into your pipeline here, right? So we have stored these two, the Databricks URL and the Databricks token, in the Key Vault, because they are, especially the token, should be a secret. Okay, that's why we used Key Vault. You can use the variable pipeline library and the variable groups here, or pass it as parameters. It doesn't really matter. I think the Key Vault is necessary in these kind of things. And another thing here, we have states, we have the prod. So stage 1 is dev, right? Stage 1 is dev. Stage 2 is prod, and here we deploy to prod the same Linux virtual machine image, a new variable group, the prod variable group here. Again, we point to the master branch, and then it depends on the dev state. So once dev is completed successfully, then we run the prod job, right? Then we deploy to prod. So everything else here is the same, with the only exception that we are using the prod variable group, and here at the bottom we do not run the Databricks job once we deploy, because it's production. You don't usually you don't run the job, you don't trigger the Databricks jobs, you schedule the Databricks job, right, in production. And here into Databricks host, again we have saved the URL and the token in our Key Vault. Again here, let me go back to my Key Vault, and here you can see I have for dev and prod, right? So now let's create a new branch. Let's create a new branch based on, let's call it test 2, right? Test 1, okay, based on master, right? So let's create that. So now let's make a change. For example, let's remove this line here, and then let's click commit. And then before we create actually a pull request, let's create an Azure DevOps pipeline. So create a pipeline. Okay, let's click on Azure, and then existing Azure YAML pipelines. The master point to the master branch, point to the demo dev YAML here, and then click on run. Now it's going to deploy to dev, apparently, and then to prod. Let's see. Now remember that we have two variable groups, one for dev, one for prod. The first time, just make sure that you permit and grant permission to the variable group, to the library, so the job can start. Let's wait. As you can see now, everything is running fine when it comes to this validate, bundle and deploy step. You can see, remember that we have one last command that is to run the Databricks job. So if we go to our Databricks environment, to dev environment actually, and we go under workflows, you will see that this job is running. The demo_pipeline that we defined as a job is running with two tasks. So here, remember, we have two tasks. Now, one thing is that we have here this, that we point to this Python, to this notebook, right, with the business logic. And then we have, this is the job cluster that we defined, demo_cluster. We defined that in our YAML. And also here, the important thing is, again, we have already installed the library. I mean, in order for the job cluster to start, it has to install this library, this Python wheel that we created, which is under this path here. So let it run. So in the meantime, let's go to workspace, because remember, under the serve folder, we deployed our bundle, and here you have .bundle, then the bundle name, the target, which is dev, under files, you have everything here, right? And in the distribution folder, you have the library. And this library is the library that we created and is being included in the job clusters as a dependent library. So everything under source, under framework, this here is where we build, where we place our code that we are going to use as a Python wheel. As you can see, everything is in order, pretty nifty, very clean approach, right? The workflow is running. Let's wait for the workflow to run. It will take a few minutes to spin up this job cluster. Okay, so the job has finished. Let's see the code on the demo_bronze. As you can see here, we print all this stuff. So we call the read_YAML function that we have created, that we import from our Python wheel library. The same for the get Spark type mapping. We print everything. Again, there is no business logic. I just wanted to show you how to structure the code. And the same, of course, for the silver layer. We do the same, etc., etc. And here, if you go here, you can open the notebook. You can see the cluster details and the dependent libraries. Perfect, right? Okay, now let's go back to our Azure DevOps pipelines. So here, again, because we are using the prod variable group, the first time we have to grant permissions. So let's check that. And in the meantime, let's see our Databricks workspace for prod. Let's see. Let's open that and see if we have anything here. So no workflows yet, nothing under workspace shared. We don't have anything. So, but here, once we get into this step, validate, bundle, and deploy, and once it runs this bundle deploy command, we are going to see our workflow. Give it a few seconds, I reckon. It will finish in a few seconds. It is installing the dependencies right now, and then Databricks CLI, and then it will validate and deploy the bundle. Again, in prod, normally we don't trigger the job right away, so we just validate and deploy the bundle. And give it a second. Validate, deploy, validate. Okay, deployment is finished. Let's go back to our prod environment, and here is the pipeline. It's not triggered apparently because we didn't add this bundle run the job. And under workspace, under shared, you will see now the bundle name, the target, which is prod, and the files, etc., etc. All the code is here. One thing to mention here is that if you have a permission issue with Databricks, once you run your Azure DevOps pipelines, probably it is something to do with your service principal and the permissions it has to Databricks environment. One thing you can do here is go to settings, under identity and access, and under service principals. Then you click on add service principal, Databricks managed. So here you add the service principal name, or you use the Microsoft Entra managed option. I can use the Databricks managed, and here if we go to our service principals, here are registrations. I can provide the name of the service principal, copy that, paste it here, allow cluster creation, Databricks SQL access, click on add, or you can use the Microsoft Entra ID managed, and it's going to be the same, right? So we have added our service principal. Another thing to mention here about the service principal and the permission is into the key vault. So if you go here into your key vault, open your key vault into access control, and then I have already done that. So if you can see all assignments, I have already granted the permissions to, as a key vault contributor, to this service principal. You can do it here. You click on add role assignment. You select the role that you want, reader or key vault contributor, click on next, select members, paste your service principal name, click on select, next, review and assign. It's going to add the right permissions. It has already assigned, already exists, so I cannot add it, but that's the process when it comes to permissions. One last thing here, let's go back to our pipelines, to our repos. Remember, we created a new branch called test1, which was based on the master branch. Now, if if I remember correctly, we changed something. Yeah, we changed something here in the exclude parts, and then we can create a pull request. Usually this is what you do. You create a branch based on your master branch. You create a pull request, you add the reviewers, they can review your code, and we merge it to the master branch. So let's click on create, and once the merge is completed, you complete the merge, and then automatically, because we merged to the master branch, it deploys the changes automatically to dev and production, right? Because we merged to the master branch. If we make any changes to the test branch, it will not deploy anything until we merge it to the master branch. This is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something new about Azure DevOps pipelines, or about Databricks asset bundles, or about Databricks in general. I tried my best to cover every single detail, but there is a lot of stuff going on here. So please take a look on the code. I'm going to upload the code on GitHub. Take your time, spend some time debugging, changing things, and see how things work. If you like the video, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.